Thank you, David. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I want to start with something that we may all think about or maybe not, which is that it seems like forever ago, and can you all hear me, by the way? Okay, great. It seems like forever ago, but it was only a little over 11 years that the first iPhone was released. And now these mobile devices are our constant companions, so that we see, let's see, is that going to work if I do that? Let's see. I'm pushing buttons and it's not. I could, oh, I have to tap on that thing. Okay, great. So now these devices are our constant companions, and we see this all the time. And with this, tech companies have begun what I think is probably the biggest social experiment in historical memory, because these small devices have thoroughly infiltrated our lives. And this makes sense because they weren't designed to be invisible and seamless. They were aggressively and consciously designed to grab our attention and to interrupt the flow of our lives, because of course that is the core tech business model, the attention economy, to say nothing of the surveillance economy. And it can only work when we're looking down, eyeballs glued onto the screen. So as a researcher, I devise ways to understand this infiltration, the effects of it, both good and bad, on our well-being. And there we go. And the question I really begin with in all of my research is the question of what makes us uniquely human, and how does mobile technology influence that humanity? And one of the things that does make us fundamentally human is in our eyes. Unique from every other animal, even our cousins, the primates, who have language, complex social structures, tool use, it is only humans who have the ability to collaborate and cooperate by coordinating our gaze. That's called joint attention. We make meaning in the world by looking at each other and then looking out at the world together. And you can see the truth of this in the evolutionary design of the human eye. The whites of our eyes are much larger than in primates and almost any other animal. And this adaptation drove human evolution because it allows us to track and coordinate each other's eye gaze with exquisite accuracy. And therefore, we can more effectively cooperate and coordinate our goals and intentions. We use the information from the eyes of others all the time and from the earliest stages of development. So when we're very young children, we tune into our caregiver's loving gaze to learn how to comfort ourselves. We learn how to coordinate, we learn how to cooperate, we learn how to be a self with others. From the beginning, we learn the most critical and fundamental things about being a human being from the eyes of our beholders. So what does it mean that now we break synchrony with the eyes of our beholders consistently, frequently, reflexively when we use mobile technology? Because mobile technology requires that we cut off this fundamental channel of human communication, the shared eye gaze. Are we becoming strangers to each other's eyes, and what does this mean? 40 years ago, Jeff Cohen and Ed Tronick created an experiment that they called the still face to study a similar phenomenon. And that was really to study what happens when parents are unresponsive or out of synchrony with their children. And this is, I was actually showing that little clip before, but this is how the still face is actually conducted. They called it the still face because they instructed parents to become unresponsive to their infants and young children for just brief periods, 2 minutes, by holding their faces still and inexpressive, as you can see with this mother. And it's very painful. If anyone's a parent or has any kids in their lives, you can imagine how hard that is. These researchers showed that even infants work very hard to regain that human connection. And babies become distressed and despondent after just a minute or two. That's very evil scientist of us, I know, but it was, there was an important goal here because researchers went on to show that if that break in parent-child synchrony is chronic and pervasive and not regularly repaired, and that can happen in chronic illness, it can happen in parental depression, then the parent-child relationship and the child's resilience can be compromised. So my colleagues and I took inspiration from this classic experiment, the still face. And we reasoned that if we wanted to understand the impact of mobile devices in our relationships, then maybe we should start thinking about it as one big giant still face. So we conducted a study in which we modified the still face to have parents, instead of keeping their faces still and inexpressive, to use their devices in front of their kids, looking down and being unresponsive while they were interacting with their young children. And this is an example of what it looked like. So there she is, the mom using her device, and that is her toddler climbing up on her after just about 20 seconds, trying to connect. Diane Sawyer did a special report last spring called, this past spring, called Springtime. It was in the spring, but it was called Screentime. And you'll see why in a second. She did a demonstration of our study, and it gives you a good feel of what it's like for a child when they're interacting with their parent, and they feel that their parents have almost disappeared into that screen. So now I'm going to do a quick, oh boy, that is me right there, hold on. I'm gonna get to about 1 minute to start it, to give you a sense of what it was like for kids. Okay, let's start there. And is sound working? Oh, sorry. Get things done.
This is 2.5-year-old Jensen.
I think he's about to suss out that she's on the device.
It takes just 15 seconds for Jensen to start his campaign to get Mom Melissa to look up from that screen.
We have some other things we do, Mommy. We have some other things to do, Mommy.
And he just walks away. Yeah.
She has been asked by researchers to do something very difficult for her. Keep looking down. And remember, just 2 minutes.
Come on, Mommy.
He repeats the plea 7 times.
We have another thing to do, Mommy. Mommy! You gonna not listen to me, Mommy. Listen to me, Mommy.
So let's not deceive ourselves.
So what did we learn? Oh, I think I have to mute it. You told me to mute it. Apologies. So what did we learn? Now, I want to start with what we did not learn. We didn't learn that you should never, ever use a device in front of your child because it's poison and it has an irreparable impact on them. That's certainly not the take-home message that we took home for ourselves. But we did learn that because using mobile devices are deeply absorbing by conscious design, it is dangerously easy to disappear into our phones. And if we allow ourselves to chronically and frequently and reflexively disappear into our phones when we're with our kids, when we're with our loved ones, when we're with our community, then this is an opportunity cost. We're losing those key moments when we can connect with other human beings. That is, we're weakening and impoverishing one of our most important channels of human communication, which is connection through our eyes. And this is not trivial. This is fundamental because I would argue that we learn to become human in the eyes of our beholders. Thank you.